Section 9.1, Second Millennial Day, from 2977 to 1978 BC, Part 1. Waters above and waters below. On the second day of creation, God divided the waters above from the waters below, and created the expanse in the middle. And God said, "Let there be an expanse in the middle of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." And God made the expanse, and divided the waters which were under the expanse from the waters which were above the expanse. And it was so. And God called the expanse heavens, and the evening and the morning were the second day. Genesis 1, 6-8. On the first day of creation, we read that the earth was without form, but covered in water. On the second day, God created an expanse separating the water above and the water below. The flood in 2321 BC. 1,656 years after creation, the world was flooded. This is found by adding up the genealogies in Genesis to Noah. Here's the account from Genesis. In the 600th year of Noah's life, in the second month, in the 17th day of the month, in this day all the fountains of the great deep were broken up, and the windows of the heavens were opened up, and the rain was upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. It was the waters below of the great deep, and the waters above, heavens opened, from the second day of creation which flooded the earth halfway through the second millennium. There are two main theories about why Yahweh destroyed the world by flood. The first and most popular theory is that the earth was so incredibly evil and violent that God had to make an end. In Genesis 6:5 it says, "And Yahweh saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually." We think things are bad today. Imagine if every person around you had only evil thoughts all the time. The second theory was that God was putting an end to a scheme of Satan, one that would have prevented the coming Messiah from taking away the sin of the world. Sons of God. In the same chapter where God commands Noah to build the ark, Genesis 6, there are a few strange verses that have been the subject of much debate. It says, "And it happened, when man began to multiply on the face of the earth, and when daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were good. And they took wives for themselves from all whom they chose. And Yahweh said, My spirit shall not always strive with man in his erring, he is flesh. Yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore to them. They were mighty men who existed of old, men of renown." These verses immediately precede God's anger toward humankind and his decision to bring the flood. Who were these sons of God? In the Old Testament, this phrase is used only here in Genesis 6 and again in Job, when the angels and Satan come and present themselves before God. Humans are never referred to as sons of God in the Old Testament. In the New Testament, there are a few short verses that help to make sense of who these sons of God may have been. Sinning angels. And those angels, having not kept their first place, but having deserted their dwelling place, he is kept in everlasting chains under darkness for the judgment of a great day. As Sodom and Gomorrah, and the cities around them, in like manner to these, committing fornication and going away after other flesh, laid down an example before times, undergoing vengeance of everlasting fire. Jude 1, 6 and 7. And in 2 Peter, "For if God did not spare sinning angels, but thrust them down into Tartarus, and delivered them into chains of darkness, being reserved to judgment, and he did not spare the old world, but saved Noah, the eighth one, a preacher of righteousness, bringing in the flood upon the world of the ungodly, and turning the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah into ashes, he condemned them with an overthrow, setting an example to men intending to live ungodly." In the first passage, we read that there were indeed angels who at one time sinned by committing fornication, in like manner of Sodom and Gomorrah. In the second passage, sinning angels are again mentioned. This time they are linked both with the flood and with Sodom and Gomorrah. In Genesis 18 and 19, you can read the account of Sodom and Gomorrah. They were two cities that had become so evil that God destroys them completely. Interestingly, just before the cities are destroyed, two angels are sent there. The men from the cities came out and demanded that Lot, who had taken the angels into his home, send the men out so they could have sexual relations with them. It seems too coincidental. Both times in the Bible when God takes full destructive action, the flood in Sodom and Gomorrah, there is mention of angels and humans engaging in sexual relations. Why should this upset God so much? The only reason I have heard which makes sense to me is this: because the human bloodline had to be kept pure in order for the promised one to come. The Messiah had to be a pure sacrifice. When Adam and Eve sinned, they were promised that deliverance would come from their own seed. Satan was told that this seed would crush his head. Could these sinning angels have been a satanic plot to introduce a kind of demonic seed into the human race and thereby destroy the prophecy? I admit this theory sounded very strange to me when I first read it. In fact, it was several years before I came around to it. I did so because it has 3 strong elements in its favor, which we will look at in the next section.